Welcome. Tonight's invocation is going to be given by Police Chaplain Kathleen Lawler, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you please stand.
Before we pray, I would like to acknowledge the tragic accidents and other deaths that our community has experienced over the last few months. One of the beautiful things about Kingsburg, though, is seeing people come together and support one another. And I've seen each of you do that. And your leadership is impactful because you care. You care for the community and you care for those in the community. And I really thank God for each of you and for you as a collective. Thank you for what you do. So that's Lord in heaven, we thank you for the many blessings that you have given us throughout the year, including the beauty that has come out of the ashes. Lord, tonight, I just pray that your presence would influence and guide the discussion and the decisions made for the good of our community. Lord, give our council members and staff members joy as they serve. May they know how much they're appreciated for their time and efforts. May they find peace and hope this holiday season. And we just pray all this expectantly in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. I'll call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call, please?
Present. Here.
Yes. Here.
First, we have to approve tonight's agenda. We'll entertain motions for that.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Under presentations and informational reports, we have none listed, so we'll move to the public comment. This provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the city council on items of interest to the public and the council's jurisdiction, which are not already on the agenda this evening. It's the policy of the council not to answer these questions impromptu. Speakers should limit their comments to not more than 3 minutes. For any items which are on the agenda this evening, you'll have an opportunity to address the council as each item is brought up for discussion. I just want to reemphasize, I know there's probably a lot of people here for the allocations, items 14 and 15. There's going to be a specific time when public can comment on that. So if it's something that is not on the consent calendar, not something that's on the regular agenda, now would be your time to come up and discuss that. So do we have anyone from the public that wants to come up and give public comment about anything that's not on the agenda? Yeah, come on up. What we ask everybody to do is, if they have a public comment, come up, state your name and state whether or not you're a resident of Kingsburg.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Wyatt. I've lived in Kingsburg pretty much my entire life. I'm currently living on 12th Street, and I was just curious, I guess you don't have to answer, what the action plan is moving forward to address the recent drive-by shootings that have occurred on that street. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Wyatt. So, and the way this works is we don't answer questions like this on there unless they're agendized. But I do want to refer you to staff. I think Chief's back there and Lieutenant Stevens is back there. I'm sure that they'll walk you through what they can. Active investigations are always we have to be real careful with what we tell everybody. I know that there is significant investigation taking place, but I would connect you with them to see if they can give you some of the answers you're looking for.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming up. Do you have anybody else who would like to come up? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. Next up, we have the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and include a recommendation from staff that should be acted on in one motion of the council. If a council member requests additional information or would like to pull an item for discussion, that item shall be pulled from the consent calendar and acted upon separately. A motion to approve the consent calendar is deemed to include a motion to waive the full reading of any ordinance resolution on the consent calendar. For tonight, we have items 1 through 13. Do you have any member from the council who'd like to pull any consent items? Is there anybody from any items from staff? Or if there's any items from the public that the public would like to pull from consent calendar, you guys have that option too. Is there anything? Okay, seeing none getting pulled, we will entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent passes. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to item 14. That's going to be a public hearing. It's going to be for awarding a competitive housing unit allocation for residential development. And that staff report is going to be prepared for by Director Holly Owen before that City Council. Do you have anything that you'd like to declare?
Mr. Mayor, for purposes of the record, our law firm Consors and Conway provides legal services to the city and also to San Joaquin Valley Homes. And in that case, that would generate a conflict with regards to our representation and our participation this evening. However, San Joaquin Valley Homes has formally waived that conflict, and therefore we will be participating in this item and the entire agenda as the city attorney for the city of Kingsburg, and not for any issues that we would represent from the standpoint of San Joaquin Valley Homes.
Does have any questions or discussions about the? Okay, now we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing, and we're going to have the staff report by Director Holly Owen.
Good evening, Mayor Purcell and City Council members and members of the public. Holly Owen, Community Development Director. We have tonight not only a staff report, but a PowerPoint to hopefully shed a little light on. Do you want to pass it, Abby, or not? Oh yeah, that would. So it will probably hopefully shed a little light on the process. It's a process that's unique to Kingsburg, and it is calendar driven and was also put in place by a vote of the people. So we want to just review a little history and how that process works. Just down right here. Just for background, and maybe some of you remember this, the early 2000s saw a residential growth boom in the Central Valley in general, and probably really nationwide, as a lot of housing was funded and then developed. And at that time, the Kingsburg had a concern over rapid growth. They were concerned about the town, small town feel. They were also concerned about some city resources like police or fire or even some of the infrastructure provisions, traffic or school impacts. And so at that point, they decided that a ballot measure was going to be presented and to the citizens to see if they would approve of a growth management system. They did approve it. It was in 2005, and it was approved by quite a large margin. It's unique and still is unique to Central Valley cities. The goal was to ensure that growth was matched the resources that we had, the service capabilities, infrastructure, schools, water, and the like, and the implementation process details, however, were needed. It was the original ballot measure was pretty general in its language, and so there was there was a committee that was formed that set aside time to create the actual process for that. So what are allocations? That it's kind of a unique word for us, but we know what it is in Kingsburg. It's the right to apply for a building permit to construct a single family residence or a multifamily residential housing unit. This is for projects that are 4 units or more. So if you wanted to build just one house, you wouldn't necessarily, you wouldn't need to apply for an allocation. But this is meant for small projects or subdivisions. It is calendar driven. So in the ordinance, which is also very specific, applications are due by a certain date. And if they are not in by September 30th, then they need to wait or they will not be considered for that year. So the council chooses either to open or not open, then a second round and in February if there are unused allocations from the previous year. There are 115 housing units that are available each year. 80 are for single-family residential units, and 35 are for multi-family residential units. They can be counted in different ways depending on the project. For instance, if there's a senior housing project, it's calculated at less than 1 unit per housing unit. So they basically get a discount. And some of that is also the case for multifamily or mobile home park projects. The phasing is also allowed for large projects. Let's say that the ask is bigger than the 80 or the remaining units that are available. Phasing can be considered at council discretion. So there were some changes to this allocation process as the consequence of the economic downturn. The council at the time thought that there was a backlog of units and that they maybe needed to look at loosening up that a little bit and making allocations available for developers should they want to come back in and submit to the city. The unused allocations might be carried over for 3 years. That was an ordinance amendment. The unused allocations could be issued only on dedicated dates. And there were timelines also that applied to certain entitlements. So if they get allocations, but they don't move forward at a certain time, then those allocations are forfeited. Just a review of the process internally, the allocation application does not cost the applicant anything. It does involve significant staff time and also the public hearings. There's public hearing notices that need to be funded too. So there's a lot that goes into it sort of behind the scenes before we get to this particular date certain tonight for the council hearing. Housing and Community Development, that's Sacramento for some of us, has accepted the process for the current housing element cycle. It's not viewed, the allocation process is not viewed as a constraint to housing approval. Phasing can involve up to 5 years of allocations. This has not necessarily been used. It's based on council's approval of total allocations for specific years. Just a visual of the population change in Kingsburg. It sometimes feels like Kingsburg is growing by leaps and bounds, but some of that is projects that have been in the pipeline that have sort of popped out the other end, pulled building permits, and now they are under construction. But the actual population change in Kingsburg was. It was recommended by the general plan that 3% was the target that was wanting that on the allocation application for 2026. The applicant is here tonight, It's San Joaquin Valley Homes. They were the developer of the Summerlin subdivision that Kingsburg was involved with. It is a proposed 88 lot subdivision on 29.65 acres. They are proposing a gated community concept. And the lots are minimum 7,000 square foot size. And the average lot size is a little larger than that. The map that is included in an allocation application is conceptual only. We ask for elevations, we ask for site map, and also a rough conceptual tentative map, and that's what it was received by the applicant. There is a proposed internal park that will be in the project. They will pay into what we have as our community facilities district. That will require us to create a new tax zone, however, because they plan to have a homeowners association model as a way of funding some of their internal needs. Here's just the conceptual map that was submitted with the packet for the allocations. I think it was reviewed by Planning Commission, and some people who are here tonight probably saw that at the Planning Commission hearing. So what happens after this? If allocations are awarded tonight, there will be the next step will be so the finalization of some of the site plan review comments, and then an environmental document will be prepared. It takes at least a couple of months for that, and there may be some additional studies that may come out of that will be needed. It just depends on what the environmental document and the analysis shows. There will then be a tentative map, a more refined tentative map, and a planned unit development, and a request for annexation that will come to Planning Commission. And then a review and hearing by them, and then on to City Council. After that, because it needs annexation, it will go to the county. Fresno LAFCO is the agency that reviews annexations. They look for orderly annexations, no oddball shapes, no parcels left out. They're pretty clear on that. They like to see orderly annexations that square off boundaries. So. After that, should that annexation be approved, it's back to the city for a final map and development agreement approval by the council. All this is a long process. I know that this is extremely difficult to see, but online you can look at it a little more closely. What has been attempted here is to indicate when the public can review and comment on the project. And when you see that the big arrow and the 4 weeks of red there in the middle, that is when the environmental document is reviewed and submitted to the public for review and comment. It also goes to particular agencies too who've expressed interest or are required to see it. So we are at that very first arrow with the red bar there, and as you can see, it's a very long process, and there's a fair number of hearings, and the second yellow bar is when they go to LAFCO. So that's an indication of how much investment there really needs to be in terms of time and staff time, as well as time with the applicant too. So that's the next steps. Allocation is the first step in the process. Again, it's about 1.5 to 2 years to complete. A lot of that depends on the quality of the submittal. The next step is where we're at now. It's council hearing. And then should allocations be granted, there's a preparation and public review of the environmental document. So in your staff report, I just wanted to touch on a few things. There's a prior action and review. The applicant started city staff conversations in September of 2024 with a site plan review. There were a number of meetings that followed, and then the finalization of their submittal for allocations in 2025. For the background information section of your staff report, there was, I think those of you who've gone through the allocation process before are familiar with the rating and ranking criteria. This is also in the code. So it's something that's consistent over time. The applicant self-ranks and then they submit to staff, and staff reviews their proposal and their rankings. Attachment E is the STEP's recommendation for a rating and ranking for this project. It will be processed as a planned unit development. And by that, it's subject to design standards and other requirements set forth in development standards. And again, it needs to be annexed to the city because at this point it is officially in the county. So the planned unit development and tentative map, as well as other requirements for annexation, will be coming to Planning Commission and Council for later considerations should allocations for this project be granted by Council. This is not a review of the map tonight. This is not a review of any approvals that may or may not be granted to this project. This is the first step in a long process, and that involves the decision by Council to review and potentially grant the allocations. In the past, there have been years when Council chose to select units from previous years to be rewarded. And more recently, in 2024, there was one project that was requested 105 allocation units. And Council at that point chose to allocate 80 units in 1 year and 25 the following year, which was a phased approach. There is part of the ordinance that deals with phased projects, and that's in your packet also. So with that, the recommended action by City Council is to adopt the resolution 2025-065 affirming the recommendation of Planning Commission to award 88 housing unit allocations to San Joaquin Valley Homes by phasing the award of housing unit allocations according to 1609-080 of the Kingsburg Growth Management System. This concludes my staff report. I'm available to answer any questions. The applicant is also here in case you have some specific questions about the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Next with our public hearing is going to be City Council discussion or questions for staff. Do you guys want to wait and do public comment and then come back?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. All right. So at this point, we're going to open it up for public comment. This is going to be your guys' opportunity to come up. The only thing again that we're going to ask is when you come up, state who you are, so we have it for our minutes in the future. Then whether or not you're a resident of Kingsburg or around this area. So at that point, it's open for public comment for anybody that'd like to come up and speak.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Dick Peters. I represent San Joaquin Valley Homes. Tonight, we're requesting 88 housing unit allocations, which is, as Holly mentioned, the first step beginning to process a project. We understand the ordinance and why it exists, and we respect the community's desire to ensure the growth happens in a measurable, appropriate pace. This project is still in the planning phase. Everything submitted thus far has been conceptual, and we will still go through the full tentative map planning, unit development, environmental review, annexation, and all the steps that go along with getting the project approved. Over the past year, we've worked closely with the city to shape a project that fits within the city standards and stays within the growth limits of the community here in Kingsburg. We appreciate the time and the care the staff has taken to evaluate and help us through the allocation process. And we look forward to continuing to work with staff to process this project.
Thank you. It's open for whoever wants to come up. There's no system to it specifically. It's You guys want to line up, or if you want to wait until it's your turn, that's fine. But if we get to a certain point, we're not getting any more public comment, we're going to close it. So be ready to come up.
I'm Paul Nelson. I live on 6th Avenue, side that is not city, part of the area that is proposed annexation. I have some grave concerns about this project, and it has several parts here. The first is I understand that the plan that was presented is conceptual. However, I live on a part where my west boundary of my home is going to be on the east side of the planned project. There is a easement, therefore, not the whole distance, but for a part of that, which will leave an open space. It is not planned for road, that's not planned for anything, but there's an open space there that is going to have to be left open because there's easements. You can't build on it, you can't put houses, you can't put fences on it, whatever it is. That's going to leave a unacceptable space for homeless encampments. You are within a couple of blocks of Reagan Elementary School. You were in my backyard with my grandchildren. And many of these families that live there on 6th Avenue have kids, have grandchildren, and will be completely unable to be patrolled by the police. I mean, there's not going to be a road there. It's not alleys. There's no anything except an opportunity for homeless encampments to just show up overnight. This isn't a pie in the sky thought about homeless encampments. Mr. King has already had problems with his property having homeless encampments in the last couple of years. A homeless individual tried to park right there on Mellert and 6th Avenue. And it was dealt with. I understand that. But you leave several hundred yards of open space for someone to get in. There's no plan for maintenance. There's no plans for anything for this open space that will have to be there. And it's just going to be a problem. And it's not going to be safe for our children. Walking home and to school along Kern, it will not be safe. And so therefore, just by that alone, it should be unacceptable to this. It should not be approved. On page 250 of the agenda today is part of the, talks about the annexation process. I don't know if you want to flip to that or not, but it's a chart that's showing that there is, it went through the property owners and listed the 12 different properties that are there. Maybe I thought it was 250 at least on mine. I'm sorry, it doesn't appear to be the same as what I downloaded.
Is it the one that showed whether or not they were supportive or non-supportive?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it showed, that one right there. Okay, if you scroll, there we go, right? That is not accurate as far as the yeses, nos, and undecideds. Right. I had a meeting last night, or was part of a gathering last night, of 7 hard no's out of the 12 parcels that are there. So that is not accurate at all. There are obviously there are some yeses there. There are some unknowns also. But with 7 hard no's on that, it's not going to pass LAFCO, right? Because it's an up or down vote for that. And you've got 7 people that are 7 parcels that have votes that are hard no's at this point. We have concerns about things like what's that going to do to 6th Avenue as far as gutters, sidewalks, lighting? Who's going to pay for all that? How's it going to be zoned? How is my property going to be zoned? Am I going to be required? I currently have a bunch of chickens. My neighbor, Mr. King's son, has goats and chickens. Lovely family. What's going to be our zoning on that? We're going to have to get rid of all those things, which is one of the reasons we bought in this area in the first place, is so that we could do that kind of thing. And here would be, perhaps, I don't know, I don't have the answer to that. What's going to be the rule on that? What's going to be the rule when our wells do go dry? We're going to be required to hook up to city. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to be required to pay for attaching to city sewer? Those are all costs that I am assuming is going to be passed on to me and to my neighbors that I don't think is fair. We'd be able to do additional dwelling units. Most of us have over an acre. So are we going to be, what's going to be the rules there? I think there's just not been enough overall complete thought of this project in order to make a decision at this point. I do not think the allocation should be agreed upon at this time until further decisions have been made on this, the whole package, where there's going to be annexations of other people's properties that impacts them potentially significantly. Getting back to my first point, it is not a safe plan. I know it's a conceptual plan, but even in that conceptual plan, they are restricted by those easements that's going to leave open property for homelessness to come in there. Just to the south of those easements is that, I don't even know what it's called, that community down there that has significant crime and other issues that are down there. And it would be a walk-in for any person that wants to be a homeless person, and it would not be safe for the children of our community, of who hundreds are right there at Reagan School. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Nelson, real quick. We're fortunate this is our time where we can ask questions back just to clarify stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're okay with it.
Oh, yes.
And for anybody that's going to come up, if we have questions, we'll probably ask when you guys are done. Can you bring up the map, Abby?
There's
The
several of them
overall
in there.
map. The one that has the houses specifically carved out. I just want him to show me exactly where he's talking about, where there's the open.
Okay, so this one will work if you pull over to the right-hand side.
We'll get that. I just would what you're referring to as the dead space. That's
Okay,
what you're
so yeah.
pointing out to me, the easement.
So this will show us right there if you scroll it to the left. Okay, and then scroll it up a little bit the other direction. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So hopefully everybody can hear me. So this area right here represents all of there's 7 or 8 different homes and parcels
Right.
in there. And
The top of it being where the church is, and then.
yeah, the church is right here.
Yeah.
And then there's some of the homes right in here, and then there's homes that come down here. And so this edge over here does not have easements bumping up against current. So there's no street that's going to go in there or anything. It's just going to be, if this is adopted, nothing's going to happen to those homes or any of their, there's not going to be a street come through there at this point unless something changes. But on this edge, there's an easement that goes from Mellor in significantly to that. And those easements will not allow for building of, they can't come, I know this is conceptual. They can't, there's a space that they can't come any farther east. And there's a space there that we cannot go any farther west. It's going to be an open area. Who is going to maintain that? Who is going to patrol that? Who is going to keep the encampments of the homeless encampments that are going to walk in from Mellor in 5 minutes and sit back there where it can't be seen? And that puts my grandchildren in danger when they were playing in their backyard. And that is unacceptable.
What is it right now?
But it's right now
Is it not open space right now?
that they're proposing, well, not all of it,
That specific space that you're talking about that's right behind your property,
right behind my property.
That,
It's
like-
Mr. King's 10 acres of almonds.
it's almonds. Is there a space between those almonds and your house?
It's it's never been an issue or anything, but like I have a gate that will open into that area, right? And he currently maintains it very well because he's a farming, right? But it's not a clear pathway back there. I've been gone over the last almost 2 weeks, and during that time, somebody hopped my fence. I've got a 6-foot fence around my entire property. Somebody hopped my fence and ran across and was chased out by our neighbor. So this is not a pie in the sky thing. Oh, paranoid Paul Nelson. Yeah, I'm paranoid, but for a good reason, because it's an issue. We've already had people that have been trying to create a homeless place on that property, not on my specific property, but on Mr. King's property. And then, hopping that fence, I'm in the middle of stuff, right? And somebody's brazen enough to do that. I've got 3 good-sized dogs. Well, one that isn't good-sized. I've got 2 good-sized dogs, but they were not scared enough of those to keep them from hopping my fence. What's going to keep them from hopping my fence when I have children back there?
One more quick question for you, because your questions you were asking about zoning, the questions you're asking about goats, chicken, sheep, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Those are like, did you present any of those questions to the planning commission?
I did.
And did they have a response at all?
No. And the basic response was that this was all conceptual.
Do you guys have any other questions?
Is that? No. City attorney, is that correct in my recollection? That you were there.
Mr. Nelson, all the comments have to be directed to us.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I apologize. It's a
Yeah.
procedural thing. Those are all valid questions. We'll try to get answers for those if this moves forward, but I just wanted to clarify that. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Line.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the line, conceptually, the line is going to be a wall or a fence. And then the other side of it is going to be your fence. So that's going to create the empty space where people can't be seen.
As I understand it from their proposal, this is all going to be brick wall going all the way through, right? And different neighbors have different things, but like I have a chain link fence, a 6-foot chain link fence. Let's pretend this is my back west edge, right? Many of us, not all of us, but many of us have chain link fence or other barriers to entry. But there's going to be a space in between there and their brick wall. Because it was proposed to be a gated community. And, so this is a personal opinion, why do you do gated communities? You don't have to do alleys, right? So there's not going to be an alley back there that's going to be maintained or that's going to be used or, city services or able to be driven down by patrol cars from our police department or anything else. It's going to be open ground. It's going to be hidden. It's going to be hidden from the community, the proposed community. It's going to be easily hidden from us, except we'll look out there and we'll see a bunch of blue tarps. And all of a sudden, that's the only way we'll know anything's there, because it will not be visible from anybody's street vantage.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oldable Tacho, 6th Street also. The alleyway is an issue in the back of our homes. And homeless would be a problem there. And I just have to agree with Mr. Nelson, so we're on board. And it's a no for me with these homes.
The same concerns you had,
Same concerns,
same alley or the
same alley. We had Mr. Nelson told you that we had somebody jump the fence. It was my son that caught the guy and jumped back. With that alley there, it's not safe for us. It's safe for our kids. Plus, I have horses. My property is going to go from county to city. What do I do with my animals? Any questions?
I don't. And I don't have the answer for the.
I mean, once we put the subdivision, I always talk about water. What's going to happen to our wells? 88 homes. We have almonds right now. They water, it goes back into the ground. These are wells again. Now you're going to have sewer. It's gone. So it's county. We want it to be county.
Thank you. Welcome.
Roy Silva, born and raised here. I attended the planning commission meeting last week, and frankly, it was a joke. They didn't listen to anything that was brought before them, nothing. They went ahead and then just pushed it on to you. And I have a question. How can this man represent the city and the developer? That's a conflict of interest. Clearly it is. It cannot happen. That's really all I've got to say about this. I mean, the rest of it, I don't own the property that gets affected by that. But, you know, the growth of the town affects me a great deal because I was born and raised here. This is my town. This is my home. But the main questions I have is about him representing the city and the developer and how that can happen.
Yeah, I think it can answer part of that. Appreciate it, Mike. But so that was the reason for the disclosure right up front, so that that's not hidden from anybody. And when they basically did their waiver of that, saying that they're not going to be representing that our attorney will not be representing the builders for this process. He will be representing the city and only the city's best interest in this for this portion of it. If we get further down in the weeds and we think that this conflict can be overcome at any point, we'll remove this firm and bring in a different firm. Definitely. Because I mean, you're right. It's absolutely a conflict.
It absolutely is.
It is.
Yeah,
That's why the disclosure takes place.
Even, you know, this, he can go back with anything we talk about and, you know, give them advice and not give the city advice on how to fight it or how to, or us.
Yeah, and I get that. I do not have integrity concerns with Mike at all. Understand everything you're saying.
I don't know.
With the perception, I do, and I can speak to his integrity.
I
Now,
don't
that
know
being
you
said,
that well, so I can't. I know your dad, but I don't know him,
that's great.
and I don't know
So
you.
if there comes a point where there is an issue, we'll bifurcate it. You know what I mean? We'll have to. You know, these are very well vetted documents as we get in the process. So
And I think you all need to realize the frustration with the people that own these properties that are getting affected. They have nobody here representing them. They're in the county. They have no city council member representing them. Who's gonna get that? Which council member will be responsible for representing them so they can hold them accountable if they pass it?
that would be Councilmember Silva and Councilmember.
All of them are mine, and I live close.
Yeah, I believe that part of the annexation process, you incorporate those into the districts. When it goes to LAFCO, if the city accepts it, city has to support the LAFCO process or else it dies. And when that goes through LAFCO, they will determine the voting lines for that.
Right. And as Mr. Nelson said, when it gets to LAFCO, it's going to fail by vote. So, I mean, you may want to look elsewhere with your development because it's probably not going to pass annexation.
Thank you.
That's all I got to say.
On it. You're welcome.
My name is Jeff Reynolds. I live at 991 6th Avenue Drive. I'm speaking for myself, my property, and also the church on the corner of 6th and Kern. I agree with everything that my neighbors have said. I do also think that it's a big, huge conflict of interest, which you have acknowledged with the attorney representing the city and the developers. So I appreciate you acknowledging that. My biggest concern and question I had is a lot of our neighbors receive letters, receive notifications, even receive maps, and we receive nothing. We didn't get anything. We didn't get any letters, any mailings. My neighbor to the west has received visits from city people. I'm talking to him about the process and what needs to go on, and we got nothing. So it kind of makes me wonder how the process took place and how we got left out and a number of our neighbors got left out from that process. The second thing is just agreeing with the neighbors as well. There's a lot of, and I say this lightly, there's a lot of talk that we are the ghetto side of Kingsburg. You know, we're on the other side of the tracks. There's a lot of stuff that goes on down 6th Avenue Drive, down to the Peach Pit area. And I'm not afraid to call it the Peach Pit area, but, you know, and a lot of police presence that goes back and forth. But as the officers here know, in the police department on the west side of the street, that's not their district. That's not their territory. They work very closely with the sheriffs and we appreciate that. But developing that property there, then my concern is one for the public safety with the police officers and also the fire department. I know we just recently started staffing the station out at Bethel and Conejo, which is a great thing, I think, for our city. But what more developments are we going to be able to do for public safety with the housing that's going to go in there and the additional 400, 500, 600 residents that'll be on that side of town that doesn't have that proper policing and fire protection now. So, and that's it.
Can you go to page 253, please? I have a question for you because now this is the second time we're hearing this. No, the one that has the homeowners listed, 250, there you go. So you said Reynolds is your last name.
Yes, ma'am.
It has you marked unknown, but you also said you're speaking for the church.
Yeah.
And that is marked yes. So I'm concerned now that I'm hearing you say no on behalf of yourself and the church. And then previously, Mr. Nelson said the same thing. So I'm not understanding the outreach that happened here if this is not accurate, because based on what you're saying, it sounds like it's not accurate.
I would say it's definitely not accurate. The elders of the church that I spoke with have received no notifications, no mailings, and so I don't know where their yes vote would have been added, or if you guys have a specific name that maybe was added. But yeah, so I would say it is completely inaccurate as far as the votes and the yays and the nays. Yes, ma'am.
Can we get a quick clarification from staff? I believe that this was submitted by the applicant. I don't think that the city or anybody else did this survey. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. So this is part of their, as part of their application that they submitted for the allocations themselves. And so we don't verify this. It's just included because it's a public document as part of what they submitted. All this would become part of the annexation process that the applicant would have to take themselves together at a later date.
Thanks. It's gonna be harder for us to get those answers if city staff didn't do it, but no, I appreciate it. And you guys coming forward and letting us know
That's one reason we wanted to come is because this is the first we've heard about it just in the last week that this process is going on. So that's why we're kind of trying to play catch up and get an idea of what is going on. So appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds.
Hi, my name is Larry King and represent some of the owners. And I want to just clarify this a little bit. So this process, even though, so this is mine and this is over a 5-year period. So having conversations with people over 5 years of different things, because I've also tried to divide into 2-acre parcels, having conversations over time. So this is just an idea of where I assumed people may be. It's just a thing. It's not scientific, like here's the vote and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to clear that up. And this is over like a 5-year period of having conversations with individuals.
Mr. King, real quick, before you move forward, I think maybe I was confused. You're saying that this document that shows the yeses, nos, and unknowns, that's based on what?
Based on my conversations with individuals over 5 years.
So at any point in 5 years, if somebody told you yes, no.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not sure
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, it's not on this specific moment in time.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Robert Bejarano, and I live on 334 Kern Street. I just want to concur with Paul Nelson. Fully agree with him. At this time, I'm just opposing this whole deal. And I just want to tell, I'm really good friends with Chris Hurtado. I believe they have the right to sell, at the same time, gosh, this is quite a big surprise for us. I have a lot of questions, and Larry, thank you. But I think I've only talked to him once, and that's only because one of his guys had ran into my fence and I had to connect with him regarding that. So he was great and gracious, but I've never had a conversation with him regarding this whole ordeal. I first got a letter. When I found out, I reached out to Chris and he was open. But I have a lot of questions. Is this going to make us have to connect to city water?
city sewage, that costs a lot of money. I mean, I've just kind of got a quote for city sewage connection. It's going to be like 25,000. I don't just have that. So that's going to affect me I'm guessing everyone else. That's my concern. You know what I mean? This hit me like a surprise. So I live right there, right where Paul's talking about. I have a chain link fence. I'm constantly chasing homeless people out. I go out there and say, hey, you don't belong here. I know, Chris, I do that for you too. I mean, I got no trespassing signs out there, and I go out there because I don't want them out there. They have created encampments. And the Peach Trees area. And I went out there, I was like, hey, what's going on? It's like, gosh, and it's dangerous. I have kids, I have children, and my back fence is in that dead zone. So I would be watching this as well. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate you.
Conceptual map which shows the entrance from Melhurt is.
Welcome.
Chris, yes. Well, I wanted to get the map. Chris Peterson, yes, I'm a resident, but I do not live in this area, nor do I own property precisely in that area. Yeah, move it. Yeah, move it a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Wow, what an opportunity. Homes being built that residents can drive out of their subdivision and then go drive across Melhurt into the Peach Pit, stock up on their illegal drugs and drive away. What an opportunity. That really supports the Swedish Village concept. It really supports safety. It really supports the Kingsburg experience. I know the Peach Pit's in Fresno County. I don't know if the plan is to annex it with this or later on, but we know it's a problem. We know that the Kingsburg Police Department, they have difficulties patrolling it because it's not the city of Kingsburg. So they're relying on the Fresno County Sheriffs, which we know the Fresno County Sheriff does a great job, but they're not here. They're all over Fresno County. And there's been things, and just in the last few years, tires, and I mean, it's just a mess. I mean, I'm not a drug user, so I can't speak from that experience, but you know, I have some friends in low places. So anyway, what a marketing plan. Market this as the Kingsburg experience to drive through drugs. I think that's just, you know, you've got some potential there. This also proposed plan, it's a convoluted border. The PUD, that's a greedy way to avoid putting alleys, which help keep our community unique and clean and so forth. It talks about, it also, the conceptual thing has cul-de-sacs. Now, I've been at some meeting a few years ago where I think it was the fire department, they didn't want cul-de-sacs because the fire trucks can't turn around, or they can, but you know, not turn around. They have to do the point thing to turn anyway. And so maybe they've changed their mind. I don't know. Kingsburg does not have the infrastructure for more homes. 6th Avenue Drive is just barely above a country road. And the further you go towards the cemetery, it's the country road. So we don't have the, also as other people who live there, they'd have to spend money on wells and other sewer, and that's not fair to them. So that a greedy developer can put in these homes, which in the packet said enhance the Swedish Village theme and so forth. The homes in the conceptual packet, you know, the conceptual design in the packet, they're ugly. I mean, they're plain, they're just ugly. There's nothing attractive or unique about them. They're just dull. And whether it's in a gated community or not, I don't think we want dull looking residents, even if the drug addicts are going to buy them so they can be close to the Peach Pit and get their illegal drugs.
Um, but bottom line, there's too much growth going on too fast, despite what the convoluted statistics say. I worked in marketing for many years, and the head marketing person always said, any list of statistics can be maneuvered to say what you want it to say. So I've always kept that in mind. As it is, we have too many people moving to town that don't necessarily embrace the Kingsburg expectations like they should, or like we would. The documents submitted, I'm rambling a bit. Whoever did great wordsmithing on the documents submitted that was in the packet, good wordsmithing then. Also, there are a lot of people that don't want more growth, that want to slow down. We don't have the infrastructure, and they're going to remember how things are proceed between now and that vote in 2026 for Measure E. So that's something to consider too. Anyway, so I've got your marketing strategy for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale again, correct?
Yeah. Mr. King came over to my house yesterday for the first time. First time I ever met him. So my vote was never a maybe or I don't know. That's a straight up lie. And most of our neighbors, it was been no. So they can tell that. So, but I've never met the man.
Welcome.
My name is John Carrasco. I live at 9156 Avenue Drive, and I have never met these people here. I've never talked to them, and they've never asked me. And I just want everybody to know here, I'm a no on this project. Okay. And second of all, behind us there, it is a problem. I guess about 2 weeks ago, a neighbor, he told us, hey, somebody's trying to jump over your fence, the chain link. So I went out there and I put, you could see the footprints and you could see the dent in the top rail where they were trying to jump over. So I posted now no trespassing signs. From what they call the peach pit, you see a lot of people walking through there. And if they're going to build this subdivision there and we have nothing in there, that's going to be a good alleyway for them to live or set up their camps. And another issue was our water well is when we first moved in there 35 years ago, we were hitting water at 35 feet. Now we're hitting water at 63 feet plus. So our well went dry once before and we've had to re-drill it. So, and then another issue is if we did have to annex into this situation, we're going to be liable for the lights, the sidewalks, the sewage, and hooking up and doing all the plumbing because we're 400 feet, over 400 feet from the back. They do this project from the back to the front. We're over 400 feet. That's a lot of plumbing. So that's where I'm at. Okay.
Mr. Roscoe, you said that you had to re-drill. You had to re-drill your well.
Yes.
Because
We were pumping up sand.
Okay. Can you tell me when, like the timeline on that?
It was in 2021.
You had to re-drill. Do you know when you originally hit the 35, when you hit the 35 feet originally?
We were hitting water at 35 feet and we dried up about double that. We had to go with some more sticks in there at 40. So we lost 28 feet of water.
Over what span of time those were?
Yes, from 2004 to 21.
Thank you.
15, I'm sorry, 2004 to 2015. So that's not that, during the drought time. So that's where we're at with water. So if they put all these homes in there, there's going to be, like they say, there's going to be a lot of straws in there. Who's going to, fill us up and hook us up or re-drill us or whatever we have to do. So that's where we're at with that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Shannon McDonald. I'm a resident of Kingsburg. I first want to say thank you so much to the council because I know a lot of you personally, and I appreciate the work that you do. And I know that it's often a thankless job. So I appreciate you guys. I am a little disappointed, I'll be honest, in the pace of growth in Kingsburg. I'm not super involved in the politics of Kingsburg. I've been a resident here for 45 years. And I know that I feel that I have heard consistently from people in the community that they're frustrated with the growth. So I was surprised to hear that in January, 97 houses were approved. Is that Kings Estate 5, I'm assuming, phase 5 or phase 4? Yeah. And then in April, 44 houses were approved off of Cam Avenue. Is that correct?
They talking about the background.
And then, and now this one for 88 houses. And so I just, I think I'm just honestly surprised by that, because I was hoping, I think, that the council would have a little bit more of a pulse of the sentiments of the community. And so I think that that just speaks to those of us in the community of how important it is for us to stay informed and make sure that the council and staff hears our perspectives and not just assume that you guys know. I have some things that I want to say, but I do want to address a couple of things that I heard, if that's okay. One of the things is over and over again, they're talking about, I don't live near 6th Avenue, but I did grow up there. So I know exactly, I know exactly the area that they're talking about. And I think that the implication is that, well, it's empty now. So it's already empty. So it's still going to be empty after you build the houses. But I think that it will feel differently when there's a brick wall and then an open space and then their property line, because right now you have farmland. So it feels like there's ownership there. Once you've blocked that off and there's a wall, if I'm understanding the concept correctly, and then there's an empty space and then there's the property line, that's going to feel like open public land. And I think that you will have additional issues potentially in that area. I also want to, I don't know your name, but she made the point of that statistics can sometimes be a little bit misleading. And I think that that is definitely true. And I think that that was proven tonight with the document that had the yeses and the nos and the maybes. And then one by one, you're having residents stand up and say, that's not actually my vote, or that's not how I feel. Yet it's presented in an application and then not verified, which might be something that we might want to consider verifying on an application at an earlier process. I understand that over and over again, it's been said that this is a long process and we're just at the beginning of this process. And I think what really we're trying to say is, don't worry about it, guys. This is such a long process that we have lots of time to stop it. And so I just, I don't want to fall for that. And I don't want any of you to fall for that. And I think that we need to get more people not to fall for that, because there's no better time than right now to stop it, in my opinion. And that we don't have to kind of push this narrative out that, hey, no big deal, we'll just have another red line that we can then come back and talk again. Because I came to the Planning Commission and I expressed how I felt. And I know a lot of these people did too. And the Planning Commission basically told us, well, we don't have any power and it's going to go to the council. And I think that's a little bit of a cop-out. And they had the power, actually, to not approve it. And am I not allowed to talk to them? I'm not allowed to just talk to them. So they also have the power to not recommend it. And I think that what citizens and not citizens, what residents in this community say should matter. I really can't express that enough. So that's all I have to say about what I've heard. But what I came here to say is that my name is Shannon McDonald. I'm a proud resident of Kingsburg, and I'm here because I care deeply about our community and its future, as I know you guys do, and I know the people behind me do as well. I am asking you to respectfully oppose the new development and any others that might be in the pipeline. According to publicly available county and state planning documents, Kingsburg has already added roughly 400 new homes since 2017, an increase of about 12% in our total housing stock. And I want to pause there because the answer I always get is, well, there was these I think they're called allocations. I was calling them vouchers. And, we had those and then the downturn happened. And so we went ahead and, increased I think you said that they changed the ordinance and, made development a little bit easier. But I have to disagree with that because it's like if you were out in the wilderness and you hadn't eaten for 3 weeks, you wouldn't come back and try to eat all the calories that you missed. That would be unwise. And I think that's kind of what happened in my perspective. For a town of our size, that is a major expansion in a relatively short period of time. We have also approved several major developments in just the last few years, to my knowledge, Kings Estate being the largest. These projects are already reshaping our neighborhoods, our roads, and our daily routines. Growth on this scale has real consequences. Our streets and infrastructure are feeling the strain, and traffic congestion has noticeably increased. Adding another development before we fully understand the cumulative impacts will only magnify these issues and create long-term problems that will be far more expensive to fix down the road. But my greatest concern is the impact on our schools. Kingsburg has a one-of-a-kind school model. Every child in town attends the same schools no matter where they live. This creates equal opportunity, consistency, and a family-like atmosphere that strengthens the fabric of our community. This system is a source of pride and identity for Kingsburg, and it is a major reason families choose to live here. Continued growth, even at a slow pace, threatens the sustainability of this system. I believe our schools are the number one thing feeding our amazing culture. Should we have to change this structure because we've outgrown it, I think we would have many negative outcomes in the future for our community. Population growth puts this model at risk. More students mean larger class sizes, strained resources, and increased pressure on facilities that are already near capacity. Once this system becomes overwhelmed, it will be nearly impossible to restore the small town unified culture that has defined Kingsburg for generations. I understand the argument that growth is good. Growth can be positive, but only when it is responsible, balanced, and aligned with the long-term well-being of the community. What we are experiencing now is not steady, manageable growth. It is rapid expansion, outpacing our infrastructure, our schools, and our ability to preserve the culture that makes Kingsburg so special. This reality cannot be denied. Whenever I raise these concerns, I am often met with percentages and graphs that are used to justify continued growth. But percentages don't feel traffic. Percentages don't sit in crowded classrooms. Percentages don't experience the day-to-day strain these new developments create. People do. And the voices and experience of the people who live here right now should matter more than abstract figures that look good on paper. The true measure of success should be the unintended consequences we are already seeing, not an arbitrary growth percentage. If growing at 2% brings negative impacts, then we should aim for 1%. If 1% still strains our community, then we must adjust further. Surrounding cities are not an appropriate benchmark for us, especially when many of us know families who moved from those communities to Kingsburg, and we all know why they came. They sought something different, something better, something more connected. We cannot assume that Kingsburg will remain the wonderful and safe place that it is because it's always been that way. Kingsburg is the community it is today because of the deliberate choices made by past councils, planning commissioners, and building staff. If we dramatically change those choices now, we risk changing Kingsburg into something we may no longer recognize. So tonight, I am asking you to pause right now, not kick it down the line, not wait and let's have 5 more steps before we make a decision, to pause it right now, to take an honest look at growth, maybe talk to the community more. I mean, if things like this are being presented in applications and people are saying, I didn't actually say that, maybe we just need to take a little bit of time to reach out to constituents, to have conversations with how people are feeling, to talk to people that have been affected by this, and to consider whether approving yet another development truly serves the people who live here, or if it serves the developers who are advocating for this. Please choose to protect the identity, stability, and the future of our town. Thank you for your time and your thoughtful consideration.
Questions for Shannon?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Ms. McDonald, you said you lived here for 45 years, is that correct? Did you vote, were you one of the 80+% that voted for the growth management system back in 2006? Or did you vote against?
I lived in the country in 2006, so I wasn't in city limits.
So
But you are now.
I am now, yes,
Okay, so you purchased a house in town now and you
Yes.
live here. Okay,
a current already built house.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Nothing
Any other
further.
questions? I can only speak for the elementary school district. I know that you're at the high school, so you have their perspective. And I just know that there's been a lot of conversation in town about growth and the impact in schools. Statewide, the attendance rates are down for almost every school in the state. Our district, the elementary district included, we had to collapse 3 classrooms, 3 teachers last year because of that. And having a lower number, we try to accept more interdistrict transfers to help with that. But even with that, it doesn't make up the number that we're missing. We're up a little bit this year from last year. But when we do have to collapse the classrooms, the opposite actually happens. The numbers of kids in a single classroom goes up. So when we have more kids, we actually can have a lower classroom count of students in the classroom. We have, I think at every school except one, multiple empty classrooms where we are in need of students in the elementary school district. They're different because you get feeder towns. But for the elementary school district, we would, not meaning this, just talking about attendance, we would need more students. We need more students.
Okay, and I first want to say I do work at the high school. However, I am not representing the high school in any way at all. So these are my own opinions. So I just want to distinguish between the two. Why do you feel that you need more students?
We can't, with all of the budgets being cut and everything else, ADA is everything to schools. That's how we function. And when we don't have students, we lose ADA. So we can't pay teachers, we can't maintain facilities, and it's a lot of money. And I know like a lot of things come down to money, but if we want to still maintain having the best, I feel like we have the best schools here in Kingsburg. I've worked in other districts.
I agree.
And if we want to maintain what we're doing for students, like we have to have that. And I mean, I think everybody likes lower classroom numbers.
I think that I just might disagree with that a little bit. I think there's 2 ways that you can tackle money issues. One of them is to generate more revenue, and one of them is to cut spending. I think that working in the private sector and then transferring over into the public sector after 20 years in marketing and sales gave me a perspective of understanding that there's always room to cut in the public sector. And so I think that I just don't know that that is something that I just personally think that having increased population growth to support attendance in schools is just something I agree with. I think, but for my concerns for this, that's kind of a little separately. For my concerns for this, it's more the structure that we have here in Kingsburg that I'm concerned about. It's more of the fact that every kid in this town goes to Washington School and goes to Lincoln School and goes to Roosevelt School, and that is unique. And I already hear, as I'm sure that you guys do, of people getting frustrated when they have 3 kids. My sister has 3 kids. She's got to go to 3 different schools. And I always tell her, suck it up. That's just how it is, because the alternative is that everybody that lives near Reagan is going to take their kids to Reagan, and everybody that lives near Washington. And I think that fundamentally changes our town. And so my concern is less, I think it does impact, the high school is different than what you're describing. I think there's a bigger issue going on and a bigger conversation we could have about what's happening in schools and why enrollment is down. But I think for my purposes here tonight, I'm more concerned about the way it could impact and the way that our constituents could start to be like, let's push for this different system in schools without really understanding what that would do. I think that that's one of the ways we're diverse. Everybody gets the same experience here, even though Kingsburg often gets accused of not doing that. Yet we have the best school system to support every child, no matter if their income level, where they live, everything, they're just going to get the same exact experience. And being, since you brought it up, being a high school teacher, I see that in my classroom. I see kids like, oh, remember when we were in Washington? There's no division between the kids once they get to the high school. So any other questions for me?
One quick, and I'm going to bring it back just a little bit to allocations and growth specifically. But you talk about percentages of growth and stuff like that. Your opinion, I'm just asking your opinion on this. What is the right percentage of growth? If we're at a cap of 3% right now per the ballot measure, what do you feel like is the correct percentage of growth for Kingsburg?
I don't think you can make it that easy. I don't think you can have a target like that. I think what you have to do is much more difficult. You have to keep an eye out on what's happening in the town right now when you have gridlock, when there's nowhere to park, when wells are going dry, when we're having increased crime. All of those things are indicators that we're growing too much. So I think those are the things that you have to look at, the unintended consequences. I know that growth can be positive. I'm not here to talk about the positive aspects of growth tonight, but I understand that there is an aspect, but it has to be more than money. It can't just be, oh, we can increase tax revenue. That just cannot be the answer, because that's just too shallow. And there's so many more meaningful things that are more important than that. And I think we live in a community that if we're really having trouble financially, we could solve those issues too. I remember you probably remember this too, Laura, when we needed to build a pool. And it was like, there was that thermometer, remember, around town, and like you'd donate money and then it would like go up, and we came together as a community. And I'm just I'm a proponent of that than government taxing more to increase the revenue. So I don't think there's a target number. I think we just need to look at what's happening and decide.
And I ask that, and I'm putting you on the spot, and I understand that because that's the position that we're in.
Yeah.
I can't create a policy based on all of 100,000 variable factors that have no guidelines. That's why when I put you on the spot and say, give me the percentage.
Well, then I'll say 0.5%.
Okay. And I just want everybody to understand that, like, this is part of the quandary that we run into is, there's been statements off and on about, the community, you don't know the community, and that's fine. But the reality is we live here.
Yeah.
But we have to set policies and guidelines and say, if you meet these guidelines, then this is the result. And that's what we're trying to do today. I think there's going to be another conversation that takes place about future allocations, about future growth and things like that. That's why I asked when you come up, you're obviously very intelligent with this stuff. And that's why I'm going to drill you down to say, what's the percentage? Because if we get to 0.5% based on what you would have liked, and then some people are feeling like it's too much growth, are you going to say, well, what I said, I'm going to walk back?
I'm going to say I was wrong and we should go to 0.25%.
And that's perfect. But that's how we have to set our guidelines. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's something that we have to keep varying. It's a very large conversation when we talk about growth versus allocations. This council, I can speak to the five of us, we're all on council, when we reduced the allocations carrying over, because we did see that spike that we saw, you guys are all talking about, where we had all of these, like, let's just call it allocation hoarding that was taking place. And then it was this big sprawl all at once. And none of us liked that. So I believe we pretty much unanimously said that has to stop. So we've restricted that, if anything. And I agree that we need to have more conversation about that stuff. But that's why I'm trying to nail you down.
So my question then is, if you say, and I couldn't see from where I was, but I know that you said 3%. And then I believe, Holly, you said that we hadn't hit 3%. So I'm going to have to take a look at that closer. But I think that if there's an allocation, if I'm understanding this correctly, there's allocations given, you have to use those allocations?
No, that's a maximum.
So that's based on what helps you decide whether to use those allocations. So is that allocation based on the 3%? Are those allocations based on 3%?
You can probably give a little bit more with that.
Yeah. Great questions. So the actual ordinance itself. So there was a vote in 2004 that asked if Kingsburg residents wanted to cap growth at 115 units a year. That passed with 82%. After that, they put together a very large ordinance, which is in the packet tonight, that basically lays out the process for getting those allocations.
I'm sorry, I have a simple mind. Who laid that out?
The council at the time, right? So they put together a group of people based upon the advisory referendum that passed. they put together an ordinance. That ordinance has changed over the years, but the basic structure is the same. 80.
A question really, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So when that ordinance changed, it was originally sent out to vote, it was passed by a large,
Yeah, so it wasn't an ordinance yet. So there was essentially an advisory vote in 2004 that was asking a question.
okay,
Do the residents of Kingsburg want to limit growth to this number?
Okay.
It passed. So after that, they said, okay, we're going to limit it to this number. How do we, to your question, how do we decide this, right? So they put together a very large ordinance at that point, and then they had public hearings and did all that, and eventually in 2005 passed an ordinance. It has been slightly amended over time, which was in the PowerPoint. So every year there are 115 allocations that are available. 80 of those are single family, 35 are multifamily that are available for application. This applicant has applied. There is a process by which staff has to evaluate that is laid out in the ordinance. There are different areas, is it next to existing infrastructure, a number of things that we have to basically decide yes or no.
okay,
If there are multiple, then they're ranked against each other, right? It's competitive. They are competitive allocations. In this particular case, there was only one application. So the challenge that staff has and that council has is that the policy has already been created.
okay,
So you don't really, in my opinion, you don't want staff deciding what's good and what's bad. You want the council to listen to constituents, set policy, and then hold staff accountable. So what we have to do is take a look at that application and say, did this do what that policy said? That's why the recommendation tonight is to move forward with the allocations, because it qualifies for what the policy that's in place right now requires. So that is,
so that's what we need to change.
as the mayor indicated, there may be discussion about that. I think what you have though is that the voters voted and spoke for 115 allocations. So that's what we go by, right? You said earlier, like, listen to the people.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. Now that was 20 years ago. So perhaps there's a time for that discussion again, but that's just kind of how we are here tonight. All the other stuff you talked about, totally relevant things. We think about all those things too. We luckily have a very good relationship with both school districts. I have a very good relationship with both superintendents. Talked to the high school superintendent just this morning about this and other items as well. So we're cognizant of that. They all live here. I live here. We hear all the same things that you're talking about.
So I do, if I'm allowed to ask a question. So the allocations, is that houses or is that like application? Can you explain that? to
Yeah.
me?
So it's units, right? So
Okay.
there's 80 single family units a year. So single family houses. There's 35 multifamily. So if someone wanted to come in and do a multifamily like apartments, right? Or duplexes or things like that. So just based upon what comes in. So for example, Linnea Villas, Marion Villas, or senior housing, they had to get, they still had to get allocations. They're just part of that 35 unit of multifamily. So every year there's 80, but as the council mentioned, we don't always give those away. Either there might not be applications for them, or they might not award them for different reasons, or if a application is not sufficient, then they're going to say, sorry, you didn't meet our qualifications. You didn't meet the standards that Kingsburg has set in order to qualify your application for the allocation. And as Holly mentioned, this is super unique. So no one else has an allocation process. This is very unique to Kingsburg, and it really is the entry step. So we make developers and applicants do a bunch of work before they're even able to get to the point where we can have a more in-depth discussion about the map. The conceptual map is difficult. So almost 10 years ago or so, there wasn't a requirement to put together a conceptual map. So you'd have an applicant come in and ask for 100 allocations. And we'd all be looking at each other going, how'd you come up with 100? Right? You don't even have a conceptual map. So the council said, we want to start seeing conceptual maps. So we at least know that the developer has done their homework and we can have something to look at. It makes it difficult because everyone here has now seen a conceptual map, right? And thinks this is a done deal. That's not the case. So it takes a lot. There's many more steps after this. And I know you didn't like to hear that, but it's reality. And this chart, those are figures from the Department of Finance. So we put this in here because Kingsburg's planning documents, the general plan and the North Kingsburg specific plan, which was passed in 2005, said we want 3% or less growth each year. If we had 3% growth every year since 2005, we'd be over 20,000 people right now. So this is up there just to show that the growth management ordinance, which was put in place to limit it, is doing what it was intended to do.
Okay. So I think that the sentiment of the people in the early 2000s for that ordinance was 3% or less. And so I think that that's what I'm arguing for, is the or less. I appreciate the 3%. I appreciate that Kingsburg is a unique place. And so I'm not surprised that we have a unique system for our planning developments. But I am saying that if they said 115, I think they meant 115 or less. And so I'm asking for the or less. And understand that it sounds like, if I'm understanding correctly, that the way that we could have approved 97 houses in January, 44 houses in April, and now 88 houses in December is that they started applying a long time ago. And then that's why would that many be approved in a year?
I need to clarify the numbers.
Sure. Yeah. You can, Abby, you can go to,
I'm sorry.
it's the allocation chart. I think it's on 280. Those are only showing 3 years, 2024, 2025, 2026. In each year, there are, again, 80 single-family applications and 35 multifamily. So Crink Laws Phase 5 in 2024, so a year ago, came in and asked for 105 total. So they received 80 of the 2024 allocations. And 25, if you kind of look the next yellow column over, in 2025.
Okay.
Joseph Crown's project then took 44 in 2025. So of the 80, there were 69 total allocations given. There were 11 that were not given. Now we're at the end of 2025, but looking at allocations being asked for in 2026. So there are 80, they are asking for 88. There are provisions because, I mean, in general, it's just the way the development works. Not every map is going to equal 80, some equal less. So the council has the ability to award 80. They have the ability to award less, or they can phase it over multiple years. So every one of the projects that's occurred that you've talked about or that you've seen develop has received allocations based upon those numbers. They don't receive more than the 80. The challenge and what people see is that some of them started in like 2016 to get their allocations and didn't start building until 2018, 2019. So they all started occurring, right? There's the next item on tonight's agenda is from a project that started in 2005, hasn't been built. They're looking to build now because market, different owners, things like that. So there are many things that affect when these projects eventually go to develop. The one tonight, for example, if you look in the documents, if everything goes perfectly with their process tonight through LAPCO, right? So we talked about this. If tonight happens, it's Kingsburg's first step to basically give them the ability to even go to the next step. They go to LAPCO and it doesn't pass LAPCO, then it's done, right? That's their challenge. If it does, and they move on and they move on and the annexation moves forward, they're probably not going to start developing the homes until the second half of 2027 for this project. So that's why people see these things kind of happening either all at once, because there might be different developers and the timelines that they work on are different. The market plays a factor. Obviously after the pandemic, you saw a lot of people wanting to move into larger homes, do things like that. So all of those things play a factor in how development occurs, comes to us, all of that.
So I still think that with all of that said, I understand. I thank you for that explanation. I still think that we have the opportunity to not grow anymore right now. And it's great that we've stayed in the parameters. I think that that was responsible and good. But at some point, I think the system got maybe manipulated a bit, not nefariously, but just naturally, and created some unintended consequences that as a community, I think that we're dealing with. So I just would still ask that we would not move forward with this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That was a good conversation. Welcome.
Basically, I'm here to say the same thing she just said, and she said it so beautifully. I don't know what I can add to it, but
Can you give us your name? Can you give us your name and
Cam Hayes. Cam Hayes. I think this 3%, the way it was voted on, was so this town would not outgrow itself. 3% was what they put the number, and people said, yeah, we don't want it to grow any bigger than 3%. I think that's where so now it's become a goal to reach it every year. We want to get that 3% in. I remember when Twinkle was here, it's like, well, I could build 97 houses. You know exactly how many he could build and stay within that 3%. To me, it's the fact that that 3% should be way less now. I mean, I'm like her. I talk to people in this town. I've been here for my whole life. I'm 68 and I was born here. I was born in Selma because they didn't have a hospital here. Anyway, I think that this town, you guys are the ones that can decide this. Last time I was more mad at the developers, and then you guys voted when I was trying out for my mom's place to stop the roll, just to slow things down. And I talk to people, and you guys are the voice of the people. All of you guys have the responsibility to answer for your constituents. You guys are for them. That's how this works. And that's why I'm saying you guys have the power to do it. When they come on with all these houses and building this stuff and people are losing their places, it's not right. It's just not right. And Kingsburg's a special place. I tried to tell, my son was telling me, you can't do anything down there to help. You're not going to be able to help. Well, I've been here a couple of times, and last time I lost. But that's still the chance. But I still think that, like she said, a slower percentage. I talked to people in town. I talked to people, their dads were on this committee that were in city council. Brad Bergstrom, Leland Bergstrom was here. A lot of these people that I knew when I was a kid, everybody on that thing, they had kids that were in my class that were all on the Workmans and all these people that were the council members. They were all, I knew them all. And it's that's the way this town's set up. And I think that like she said, everything she said was right on the money, that this town needs to slow its roll a little bit. That's all I've been trying to do. Is just slow it down. I mean, you're not going to stop it completely, and especially things like this, it's like 88 houses, boom, right like this, and it's like the schools can't handle it. The Main Street, I drove around Main Street today, looking around here and just, there's not a parking spot on the whole street. Another thing that really upset me, this was my 50-year reunion, and we rode in the parade, the Swedish Festival parade. It doesn't go down Main Street anymore. The parade doesn't go down Main Street. I couldn't believe it. We went down over there by Washington School around, and basically we went all the way around so they can have vendors on Main Street. I don't get it. Put them back in the park where they belong. That's what I think. You know what I mean? This town means a lot to me. That's why I'm here again. My kid was telling me how you can do it. You can get a petition together, and then you have to have so many people sign it, and then they put it to a ballot with the people. And I talk to the people. That's what I am. I'm the people, and you guys are all the ones that represent us. So we're putting our hopes and dreams on you guys. Because I know some of you guys, and I think that you guys care about this town. And so do I. That's my whole gig. And I wish I could have said it as beautifully as she did, because she said it perfect. And like I said, that or less than, that's the whole key to the whole thing right there. Because right now, people around town, everybody I talk to says it's getting too big too fast. In fact, I was thinking about putting something in the paper and having them vote on it. In the Kingsburg paper, had them send it in with their city bill. Wouldn't cost anything. Just to let people know that most people in this town are thinking it's getting too big, too fast.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Appreciate you. Welcome back, Mr. Silva.
I've got one quick question. If an application is put forth with a falsified document in it, shouldn't that be pulled? Because he's saying he talked to all these neighbors and put down how they would vote. That's false. That's a lie. Now that's part of his application. Shouldn't the whole application be pulled and have to be reapplied?
I don't know that there's, I can, and I agree with it. So let me speak to that just real quick. I think, Councilmember, you're welcome to chime in on this. I think it's very well heard that that's probably not an incredibly accurate document.
And he knows it's false.
I'll factor that in when I make my decisions. I'm assuming council will too. Absolutely.
I mean, shouldn't the application just be nullified? There's false documents in it.
No, there's a clause to hold it because there's something false. I think the whole map and everything else could be false at this point.
I think
And that's
if
that's
you
what
guys
that's the
approve
product
it
that
and
he
move forward, I
submitted.
think we'll have to look into that.
Yeah, no, for sure. This is the product that they submit. And whatever they put on there, that's their choice to put whatever they want on there.
Yeah, but they
We-
can't,
we
they can't
evaluate
put
it.
lies on there.
Well, they can, but when we find out they're lies, it's up to us to determine what we're going to do with those
So that
lies,
should be
right?
immediate dismissal of it. If
So
they're lying.
they submit the package and they say, this is what we're putting forward. And then we make our decision based on what they put forward.
Right.
Does that make sense? Lies, not lies.
Yeah, but I
accuracy,
mean,
not accuracy.
if you were going to hire somebody, they filled out a job application and you get to a point where they clearly lied and it's proven, you wouldn't even consider the application anymore, correct?
Correct. I wouldn't.
So what's the difference? You're representing all of us. This is basically an application to make money. They're lying about it, at least on that document. So that application should immediately be dismissed, nullified, not even considered. Am I correct? Or do we not have a soul in Kingsburg anymore? Is it all about tax revenue?
We appreciate your comments and we've heard it. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Have any other members of the public like to come up on? All right, so seeing none, I guess we'll go ahead and close the public comment on this and bring it back to council for council discussion. Who'd like to go first?
I'll go first. I have questions about if it's annexed into Kingsburg, the residents that live there, their concerns about their animals and, the water hookups, sewer. So what's the answer to that?
Right, Councilman Palomar. I think I can address this because I actually recall an annexation a number of years ago with a similar situation where there were properties that were in the county and they were going to be required by the LAFCO process, the annexation process, to come into the city. And there was a considerable amount of outreach that was done by the developer. There were meetings that were held here at City Hall. There was information that was given on the annexation process in general and what would be involved in particular. There was individual outreach to make sure that the citizens who were being annexed, their concerns were heard, and where possible, they were allowed to continue the use of their land. In certain cases, it was the keeping of animals, basically a rural residential lifestyle. And this was a document that was notarized. There was some funding that was made available to those residents to offset the expenses of hookup. The understanding was that they would keep their wells and their septic unless they already hooked up to the city until they no longer functioned and they would be required to hook up to the city. I may have missed something, but that's my recollection. These were documents that were signed by individual property owners and in agreement with the developer.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about LAFCO. I'm probably going to have more questions, but because you brought that up, I know that other cities have county islands. Is it something that LAFCO would consider?
Absolutely not.
No, okay, okay.
Yes, I mean, that is something that I think Fresno is a great example of what happens when that is not addressed early on. And there are LAFCOs in every county, I believe, in the state. And that is one of their mandates is that, there needs to be orderly annexation, contiguous annexation, no peninsulas, no county islands. And there's a reason for that because, when you talk about looking at services and infrastructure, it just makes economic sense, and makes more sense for public safety. At this point, islands would be not allowed.
My reason for asking that is if it went to LAFCO from us and failed because of the communication with the residents, could they then come back and do an island and move on with it anyways?
No, they would not be allowed to do that.
Okay. My second question is, if council does not move this on tonight, because it is county and it's not city, could the owner go through Fresno County alone and then we lose all say over what it looks like? Because if it is city, then we have some control over what it looks like. But if they went straight through county, I don't know if that's a possibility. What would that look like? Could it happen? And if so, would we still have say so?
Are you asking about like our sphere of influence associated with that? Yes.
So usually projects that go to the county, or that are in the county but are in our sphere of influence get directed from the county to the city. And we require annexation because of all the things that you're talking about, right? So we require it because then they have to meet our development standards. They have to do everything, at least not the existing properties, but the new development would meet our existing standards that we require. I don't know what would happen if essentially council decided not to go forward with the project as a proposed annexation, because then that might leave the applicant with the option to only go through Fresno County. And if Fresno County decides to move forward with that, then it's possible. I mean, there'd be more questions about their ability to serve it with water and everything else that would have to be answered. So I don't know that for sure, but certainly if it went that route, then you would lose the ability to impose Kingsburg development standards on it. They would be county standards, and the property taxes and everything would remain with the county and still have the development there.
So it's a possibility that it could go through county.
I honestly don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say no. So I guess if it's a possibility, yeah, it's a possibility.
Okay, another question. Sorry. Because the voters in 2006 put this in place, and we have all the ordinances put into place, and we ask applicants to do all of these steps to get to this point. We've heard all the residents, and there are many very valid concerns, and I know we'll probably discuss that a little bit more. If it was something that we chose not to allocate, does that open us up to legal repercussions?
Yes, it would. I think that, as you pointed out, listen.
Hey, so real quick, guys, the public comment, just let us work up here. We're respectful during public comments. We're going to ask people from the audience not to just shout out during that time, please.
Yeah, and just to be again on the record, I have a letter signed by the president of San Joaquin Valley Homes waiving the conflict and specifically providing that should any dispute or any issue arise between the city and San Joaquin Valley Homes, that we are authorized and they waive any conflict so that we can represent the city. So we've satisfied our ethical obligations. And so if you have any questions, you can come talk to me later after the meeting is over. But I have no qualms about my position here with regards to representing the city and being the city attorney now. And in this meeting, even though San Joaquin Valley Homes is the applicant, because they've waived the conflict.
Mike, can you answer? I think that,
yes,
can you answer the question specifically about liability?
Well, again, I think as has been pointed out, we have the ordinance, and the ordinance provides the opportunity for developers to come in and seek allocations because they cannot proceed with the building of, with even the consideration of an application for development unless the allocations are issued. I would give the example that say we didn't have the growth ordinance, and a developer came in and made application to build this subdivision in this location. The law does not allow a jurisdiction just to summarily say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to process your application. You know, you have to follow the rules, and in that respect. And so this is the issue that's before you tonight, is that we have an ordinance that allows for the issuance of allocations, and that is the first step towards any development of residential development within the city. And so, and the ordinance is in the municipal code. It's the law of the city at this point in time. Certainly, the council has the opportunity in the future to reevaluate the ordinance and reevaluate the issues of growth that have been brought up here tonight. And even though, you know, I know we have people who don't want to hear it again, but as being the first step, all of the issues valid issues that were brought up this evening by the people who made public comment, those are all going to be issues that are going to have to be addressed by staff and by the developer and by LAFCO when these applications go forward, both here in the city for the tentative subdivision map, the PUD, and then the LAFCO evaluation. And unless LAFCO has changed their requirements, Fresno LAFCO doesn't consider annexation until there is a tentative map that's been approved by the city that's where the property is located. So all of that is going to have to be determined, and all of these issues that were raised by the public tonight are going to be issues that are going to have to be addressed by the Planning Commission, the City Council, and by LAFCO. And if LAFCO doesn't have enough votes in order to annex the property, then there's not going to be any annexation. So people may not want to come and talk about it again, but these are all issues that will be in front of you again, just in a different form from the standpoint of the tentative map for the Planning Commission and the PUD and the annexation before the City Council.
Thank you.
Not for them, but to discuss. So just so you go down to like 300 to do that long map again. So just to go over the calendar, sorry, not map. So just to go over the calendar, we're at the very first step. So they're going, it's on 303 for me, that one. So the developer, if we move forward with this, the developer would then start going through the process and work on more finalizing the map before, and there's 3 other places that are red indicating public comment before it even goes to LAFCO. I just want to make sure
Yes.
And then at LAFCO, if they don't have the votes.
Yes, did you see there's a red square at the very end there? That's the LAFCO hearing. And LAFCO goes through a fairly intensive process to to review the legal documents and all the decisions that were made by the city. And then they also take input from those that are going to be annexed. And then they have their meeting, which is at the very end there.
One other question, another point that was brought up was about 6th Avenue and sidewalk. So if this moves forward, what would happen with the street?
Can you go back to the map, Abby? So again, the map would have to be finalized, but just in general terms and city engineers here as well. But what happens with any development is that the applicant or the developer's engineer is going to work directly with the city's engineer to make sure that the development meets all of the city's development standards and improvement standards, which includes sidewalks, road widths, everything that you see with a normal development. So I don't know. We'd have to have the conversation. Obviously, would have conversation with the individual homeowners, whether or not that sidewalk would carry from on 6th Avenue to where it's shown there all the way up to Kern. Because obviously you have different improvements there. That would be part of that discussion, but there would be sidewalks on the extension of Rayford Johnson on the outside and then on Maylert. So both of those roads would have to be extended from where they currently exist. And then on the internal portion of the map as well, there would be sidewalks. The project is a little bit different than some of the newer ones we've had lately with regards to financing. So all of our new projects, in addition to normal property taxes that they pay, they also have to pay into a community facilities district. It's an additional amount on their property tax bill that goes to pay for the impacts to police, fire, upkeep of parks, upkeep of replacement of roads and alleys and those particular developments. This one would be different because as it currently is proposed, it is a gated community. So the city would not be responsible for the roads, the maintenance of the park, the maintenance of the public areas in the inside of there. So that would be through an HOA, which is funded by the residents who live there. And then there would be a portion of the CFD that they still would be charged for things like police, fire, general administrative things that those people would pay, but they wouldn't be paying for the other portion because the city would not be ultimately responsible for it.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to say that, first of all, for the citizens here, I've known Mike Nolan for 7 years, and his integrity is out on 100%. He's been our city attorney since I got on council in 2018, and just because his firm happens to also represent San Joaquin Valley Homes, that just happens to be a coincidence. And like you said, if anything does come to where it has to go to court, Mike would be excluded from that. But as far as his integrity for the city of Kingsburg, I would never doubt him in a minute. And I know our staff and these city council members would not either. So I wanted to say that first and foremost. And for me, I hear all the citizens tonight. I know a lot of the property owners in that area, and I'm not sure I'm going to vote tonight because I've been talking with some of the owners of the land there. I haven't talked to San Joaquin Valley Homes, but I don't think San Joaquin Valley Homes did their due diligence in reaching out to the residents that are going to be affected and annexed into this area. So I'm still debating on how I'm going to vote tonight. So I just wanted to let everybody know how I'm feeling right now.
All right. I don't really have any questions. I just want to thank everybody for attending tonight. I think it was a lot of good information and dialogue back and forth. I appreciate everyone's perspective and what they bring to the table. It's not always easy for us to make the decisions to make everybody happy, right? But we're here and we're going to make the decision and it will be what it will be. But I do also want to just quickly, compartmentalize this into three buckets for me. And there's a lot more buckets that you could bring to the table, but one's like the emotional and the perception bucket, which none of us up here are super growth people like, hey, let's just blow the town up like some other communities have done around us. Okay, so I think the perception may be that based on what's happening in the city, but that's not the reality. And that's an emotional aspect of what we're looking at here today. The other is the financial. And I hear the financial aspect like, oh, they just want to put in houses to get more money and revenue. It's not accurate from my perspective and where I sit. Just telling everybody right now, we don't put in houses. I don't vote for houses for the financial aspect. Although it's a big component, if everybody wants, top end fire, top end police, top end public works, top end looking city, you need money to do that, as we all know, just like maintaining your own businesses, yards, houses, all the rest of that. So there's the financial component. If we were interested in the financial component, we would have had a bunch more houses. We would have filled all these allocations every year straight away. Okay. We would have, and we haven't done that. We've actually rolled them forward. Okay. So the last one, which to me is the most important one, which is the practical and responsibility bucket. This bucket is the one that probably a lot of us voters in here voted for, which was the growth management system that's before us today. It's the management system that we voted for back in 2004 that puts us in this position today to look at allocations. There was a policy that was put in place, as everybody knows now. There was procedures that was put in place, and developers that come before staff and come before council have to follow that. And if some of you may have remembered, this project came before us back in February. And we didn't give allocations in February. Maybe some of you know that, maybe some of you don't, but there wasn't enough due diligence that was done. We didn't know enough about the project. There was still some, fundamentally some areas that weren't shored up. And we didn't open allocations at that time. Okay, but here we are now. The developer has done what we have asked, what we have put before them as a policy and a procedure. And I'm going to be honest, when you look at the emotional aspect, there's a lot of people in this audience that would love to live here that can't. Okay. There's some that have moved from other areas that are great people that are in this audience that have moved from other areas that are great people and have enjoyed the Kingsburg experience, embraced it. And so now we're talking about no more building. And that's why I questioned Miss McDonald, and I wish she was here, because Miss McDonald was one. Oh, is she still here? She's still here. Great. Miss McDonald was one that has been here, that was outside of the town, now is living in the town, albeit an older home she bought, or an established resident. There may have been a family in that house that went to the new house and said, hey, I want a new state-of-the-art, whatever, more efficient house. And she managed to move into that because of what has happened. Remember, I'm a transplant, so I come from a little different perspective than maybe Mr. Cameron. I appreciate your perspective because you're a longtime resident, but that doesn't mean I love this community any less just because I'm a transplant. Okay. Might even mean that I love this community more because I chose to be here. This is somewhere that I chose to be. It's not somewhere that I just ended up or that was lucky enough to fall into.
I chose to be here. I could have moved away.
I'm not saying that you didn't choose. I'm just saying there are people like me. There are people in this audience that would love to be here, that chose to be here. And to not develop because we feel that they're not going to embrace the Kingsburg spirit, the Kingsburg experience, all of that stuff. I don't believe it and I don't buy it because I know a lot of people that would love to live here that can't, that want to be part of the Kingsburg experience, that want to be part of this community and they can't. I know young families, I know young kids. I know my kids would love to buy a house. They're 23, 24. They can't. They can't. But they want to. They have aspirations to. So there's the emotional, there's the financial, and then there's the practical. I think it's very disingenuous for me personally that, as some have stated, we represent the taxpayers. The taxpayers overwhelmingly put this policy and this procedure in place. Now, we may not like it, which is a different conversation than what we're voting on today, in my opinion. But what has been done has followed the rules and has met the criteria. It's went through the planning. It's done all of the things. And so for that, I'm going to say that it would be disingenuous for me to go against what the voters overwhelmingly put in place. But I would say that I would be more of a proponent in a phased approach. And this has to go through LAFCO and it may die there. I think that the home builder has more due diligence to do with the residents. Absolutely. Your comments, all the residents' comments are valid. And I think that that was a fail on the home builder. Just saying it straight out. I think that there needs to be more due diligence to get those residents on board, however they need to be on board. But I would be a proponent of a phased approach with only we have potentially 80 units, but I would say the first phase would be like 48 units. And then the second phase in 27 would be the additional 40 units to do the 88 units. Now, that was a tentative map. It may be 89 units. It may be 86 units. I don't know what that looks like. And this thing has a long way to go to get through LAFCO, but that's not what's before us today. What's before us today is they followed the procedure and the policy that the city and the voters had put in place. So I can't responsibly go against what has been put in place, especially when Laura brings up the legality issue and the other issues that have been brought up. So I know it may not be popular, and listen, I'm not happy about it, but I think that this is probably the easiest palatable scenario to get us to where we need to be. And I'll leave it at that.
Councilmember North.
In doing all of my reading before this meeting and going through our packet, I looked at it and I know that the builder had come previously and we said, no, you need to do your homework, and they came back. And so looking through it, I was like, oh, they met everything. They met what the voters said, which I voted against it, by the way. The voters said in 2025 or whatever, when it was 2005, 2006. I'm sitting here in a place of thinking about the legalities and our process and our steps, and having someone that appears to have met all of those steps. So it should be an easy yes. The part that's pulling me, and I appreciate all the residents coming because it's so important for us to hear all of this. What is making me not be a solid yes, and I'm still trying to think through, is a couple different things. Mr. Nelson mentioned the safety. I think that if that came back in a map, we could work that out. We could make that a sticking point. We could solve that safety part. I think that the tentative map, that's a dumb idea to have an exit on Miller. I agree with Chris on that. But the sticking points for me are having residents that chose to live in the county and not live in the city. And we have ordinances. You can't have chickens. You can't have chickens in our city. I mean, I think that there's other animals listed also. So I do know that that would take them from being a county resident to a city resident when they purchased their established homes, knowing that they didn't want to be in city, and being able to have the different things that they can do because they're not in the city. The other concern I do have is, forgot who mentioned it, is the groundwater. The owner, we don't own that property. The owner can do what they want to there. But right now, those residents all have wells. And because there's almond trees, that is helping with that. I think somebody had mentioned when there are houses there, they're going to have a problem with the amount of water that they're getting in their wells. That's concerning because their only option after that, when their well dies, is to hook up to the city. Correct?
Yeah, just a couple of clarifications. So houses that come in that are annexed into the city are allowed to be what's called non-conforming uses. And so if they have existing county rights that carry over until there's such a time as a trigger. So that might be, you go to redevelop your house or something like that. But if they have chickens, they get to continue to use chickens there. Same for other animals. They're not required to connect to city water, city sewer upon annexation. If their well goes dry or their septic goes out, then they are required to connect at that time. That's a discussion and certainly something to consider. There have been other folks that aren't a part of annexation that are just outside of city limits that have asked to connect because the price to drill their well was more than the price to connect to city water. So all those things have to be considered. The water thing is different. So a subdivision would not add more straws. They would connect to the city's water system, which already have existing wells. So there's potential, and the city's engineers here, but a well that is next door right now that is pulling for almonds is going to have more of an impact on their individual wells than homes that are next to it because they all don't have individual wells.
Okay, so those are things that are pulling me away from being a solid yes, which I thought walking into this meeting that that's probably where I would land. But the biggest thing is that false document. That document where whoever did it, sounds like it was Mr. King. When that is presented in the packet, that was not city staff. When that is presented, we expect that it's going to be somebody with integrity, and they did what it appears. What it appears is they went out and talked to them officially or flyers. We have a lot of people in here that were listed on there that didn't have the conversation. That concerns me for moving forward about the integrity of the project, I think I would say. So those are the things that, I don't know, I'm Morgan Fizz. I don't know right now. And I will say that honestly, from a legal standpoint, if we don't do this, does that open us up to litigation? And that would concern me because we also have to think about the impact that would make on the city. So what I'm thinking.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
No, I have to agree. The biggest issue I have is that this opens us up potentially for litigation, and we have to be fiscally responsible. We are, like we are following what the voters came up with. And I do think that maybe we need to, and we've heard at a few of our allocation meetings, maybe we need to sit down and reevaluate that, get input from the community. But at this point, I think it's too late. We have an ordinance, we have a policy in place, and the developers have followed that policy, expecting that they, get here and, they've been working on this for well over a year, as we know. But you're right. I do have concerns with it, and hearing from the neighbors and having the people in the county. Some of the other concerns I have with it are the tentative map. To me, it doesn't represent Kingsburg. And I think it really needs to be thought through. That space in the back, if we could address that, this is going to be a long process coming up with a map. But in looking at what Kingsburg development looks like, we're a community with open parks. We're a community with open walkways. We've got just over 4,000 houses in Kingsburg, and just 123 of them are in gated communities. A gated community, I don't think, is a real good representation of Kingsburg. We are a community. And the other thing is the alleys. I think you really need to rethink the map and work with the neighbors if we do move forward with this, because what we can do, we are cautious with our growth, and we are cautious with our development, and we want to make sure that the end product is a representation of our unique community, and we want a good development. And we're very slow and methodical on that, and we have high development standards. So I would just like to rethink I would like to ask you to rethink some of those if we're going to move forward with the project.
I guess my turn. So I'm going to start a little bit with the annexation concerns that I have. Annexing, and I'm just going to be very clear. A lot of you know what I do for a living outside of this. I've worked for the sheriff's office for 25 years, and that we do respond to Peach Pit. And I will tell you, Peach Pit is not Kingsburg. It's regularly said. I have concerns annexing towards Peach Pit from a public safety standpoint. That doesn't mean that I would vote no on this for that reason, but that's a very serious concern that I have, is anything that's going to annex Peach Pit, anything near Peach Pit, or that area is going to have to be right, because that's a tough area that does not reflect why I moved my family here. I'm a transplant. I'm a transplant from Raleigh, and I moved here for one reason, and it's safety. It's safety, and it's a small town. So I would say, respect those that have lived here forever. That's awesome. I like to have that pride. For me, I look at it like I have more of a guardianship of this town now, because I know why I moved here, and I know why people want to move here, and so that's important to me. That's a concern. That doesn't mean that it's a no from me. And I'm not anti-development, so I'm not anti-growth. I'm pro neighborhoods. I'm pro the correct neighborhoods in the correct areas at the right times. I think that is very important for every town. So I think no growth sounds great. It's just not a real thing. You want your town to develop the correct way, do the correct means at the correct times. Now, coming to this project here, this is a very small step. We've heard this time and time again in this. This is a very small step in this project, right? There's going to be, you could bring that chart back up again. You don't have to. where you're going to see that there's 100 different steps over like 58 weeks or something like that that's going to take place. Each one of those steps has to be right. Each one of those steps has to be exactly what Kingsburg is. Each one of those steps has to be accurate. Here I am today, though, and I have a concern that this is a very small step, but what I was presented here was inaccurate. And when I am seeing a list and when I'm making an evaluation prior to this meeting, I'm doing it based on the presentation that's given to me. And Mr. King, I appreciate you coming up. You fell on your sword about that, so that was you and you owned it. And I get that. But I got to tell you, when we're working with developers and we're talking about annexations, what we're doing is we're developing a relationship with them to become part of this. And it's hard for me when there is something that is determined to be inaccurate, misrepresented. And I don't know that that is an intentional thing. That may have just been a tactical misstep on your part. But my job up here today is to evaluate this project based on the product that is put before me. And to speak to what Mr. Silva said, this is the product that was brought forward. This is my packet to evaluate it. And if there's a bad apple or there's something in it that's going to be a cause of concern, then this is my time to evaluate the overall product, which is what I'm doing. And for me, based on that, I don't support it. I don't support the allocations because I have the annexation concerns. I have concerns that LAFCO is not going to block this off the way that we have here. I have concerns they like to take large chunks and annex all of those at the same times. I have concerns with that. And I have concerns that, like I said, this is a small step and there's errors in it. And anytime there's an error, I'm a gatekeeper in this town. And so when there's an error, the answer is no. So I can only speak for me up here. We haven't gone to a vote yet, but I can't support a project that is making errors this early on in the project when there's so many more steps to come. Go ahead, Councilmember Roll.
I have another question, and this would be for Holly. The inaccurate thing that we're talking about on page 253, the talking to the neighbors, was that accounted for in any point in the application?
I don't believe that that's part of the ranking rating.
That would be a laugh. That would come up in LAFCO later. Is that correct?
It would definitely come up in.
That would be like an official survey.
In fact, I think it would come up before then. It would come up when we are considering an annexation, yes or no. I think we have the, we have the right to have a sense of comfort about that and about the outreach and, meeting people where they are and what they value. Whenever possible. It's not always possible, but that is, that's something that can be considered. But LAFCO would definitely take that into consideration.
And then with LAFCO, they like to do large chunks. So if this is going, we don't have an idea of what they would look at doing with this project.
We do have some pre-consultation meetings with them. They're somewhat informal. They're at their office. The developer comes, and property owners come, and we talk about what is expected as far as they're concerned.
So currently looking at this, if it went to LAFCO, would it just be this area and those existing homes, or would it extend further?
It's up to LAFCO.
I'm not sure, but I think my understanding was there were some initial meetings with LAFCO. Please, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but there were some initial meetings, but with the developer with LAFCO, and this square was under consideration at the time. I mean, I wasn't at that meeting. I like to be at those meetings, so I hear it myself. And that meeting, we will have a second meeting if needed.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I know Mr. King, I know you want to speak. I know Ms. McDonald and Bax want to speak. Just Robert's Rules of Order close that portion of it at a certain point, so I apologize. But what it does, and I appreciate that, but it just doesn't allow that. So. Yeah. Do we have any other council comments or discussion?
Yeah, I have a question for Holly. You just said that some documents in our packet that it would come up when we look at annexation. So are you saying that Kingsburg could decide not to, say, no, we don't want to annex that in?
Well, annexation is part of the action that's taken with the tentative map and with the PUD. The annexation is that there's a detachment from, from fire and Fresno County into the city. So there is an annexation decision that's made. I would ask that Mike maybe needs to clarify the annexation action that the council would be asked to take.
Okay.
But that is part of the larger package. What needs to go eventually to LAFCO that we have eventually approved.
I think we also need to be very fair to the developers. I don't want to give them allocations and tell them, hey guys, build it, move forward, start putting more time, more money into it. If it's going to fail annexation, that's not fair to them either.
The council has to pass the necessary resolutions in order to move the project to LAFCO. So LAFCO doesn't receive a project in and of itself. It has to come from the city, and a petition from the city to annex the property into the city, because LAFCO deals with that's why the LAFCO requires the tentative map and the environmental document. LAFCO will not do a separate environmental document. That environmental document will come from the city, and LAFCO has to make a determination as to whether or not the environmental document is adequate. And then the LAFCO will have, will contact the residents for purposes of calculating the vote. From the standpoint of the amount of property, LAFCO usually, it's LAFCO's desire that they square boundaries. So if that's looking at what that may be, that's what their main concern is for the most part, is squaring off boundaries, not having islands and not having strange boundary lines like happen when you redistrict districts for congressmen and those sorts of things. So that's what they're looking at, to maintain orderly development going into the city from the county. So, but the annexation will have to come. The annexation request and the actions on annexation will first have to come back to the council. And the other thing too is that, staff is following what, they're supposed to follow. So,
Sorry, council discussion. If not, one last round. Appreciate it. We just can't have any more comment. So I guess we're at a point now to where we're at a possible action.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair. If there are still questions that you have of the applicant, you can ask those questions. So if you need any clarification, but
you guys have any other questions or comments?
No.
Okay, so I guess we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing for this point. And what we have before us is possible actions. That is to adopt resolution 2025-065, affirming the recommendation of the Planning Commission to award this 88 housing unit allocations to the San Joaquin Valley Homes by phasing the award housing unit allocations according to 1609080 of the Kingsburg Growth Management System. That being said, we will entertain motions.
I'll make the motion, but can I amend it to allocate 48 units in phase 1 and 40 units in phase 2 in 2027?
Can you say that one more time so I can write it down, please?
So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the 88 units and phase them. So in 2026, it would be 48 allocations. And in 27, it would be the balance.
40 more.
40 based on today's tentative map. It may change plus or minus, but that's what my motion would be.
I want to make sure. So the motion is 48 allocations for 2026, 40 allocations out of the 27 allocations.
Correct.
Okay, so phasing. Okay, we have a first, we have a second on that. Seeing none, that adoption dies. And that will be the end of that action. But not, basically what that means is it dies for lack of motions. So it's not moving forward. Next, we'll move to item 15. This is going to be an additional public hearing, planned unit development for 2025-01.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
before you move on, I think it would be, the motion was made and it died for a lack of second. I think then the procedure is to ask if there are any other motions.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, we'll open back up. Are there any other motions specific to 14? Okay, seeing none, then are you comfortable with that? There's no additional motions.
That's likely.
Because we don't need to make a motion to deny the applicant. We just do not affirm it, correct?
Yeah. What you're doing is you're denying the planning commission's recommendation for the allocation of the units.
So would you need a motion on the record for us to show that we are in fact denying the planning commission's?
I think that would, well, take into consideration the legal issues that are arising. Yeah, I think that would probably be appropriate.
Okay. We'll entertain motions for denying the planning commissions.
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call that, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Yes.
Yes. Okay, now. Did I move on?
Take a short break, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, you know what? Let's take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Yeah, we're ready when you are. All right, we'll go ahead and open it back up. We're gonna move to item number 15, which is an additional public hearing. This is a PUD for 2025-01 and mitigated negative declaration for 44 single-family residential lots in the city of Kingsburg. We will open this public hearing and we will have a presentation by Community Development Director Holly Owen.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members and members of the public. We're here tonight to consider the Planned Unit Development 2025-01 and the Mitigated Negative Declaration, which is the environmental document for 44 single-family residential lots in the city of Kingsburg. We're going to walk our way through the PowerPoint that illustrates a little bit about the process, just so there's thank you. So there's a understanding of where we're at and what's been done on this property before, and just kind of some general comments too about how the approval process works in the city. I think it's frozen. Is this thing? There we go.
And then we should.
Yeah, there we go. No. Right. Yeah. All right. 1 second, please. You all right? Okay. When we talk about tract maps and PUDs, tract maps are sort of the big picture, big proposals that come in. They subdivide land into blocks, into lots. There's circulation that's involved, and that's often that's a separate entitlement. PUD is kind of the companion piece to a tract map that shows more of the internal development, what kind of amenities are involved, the type of housing, and it's a discretionary review. The laws though that govern all this is really they're enshrined in state law. There's a Subdivision Map Act, and it's pretty clear. It's also pretty short. So there are things that can be done. There are requirements that need to be met for a submittal, and then there are certain actions that need to take place at certain times. The local ordinances cover tract maps. All local ordinances deal in some way with mapping, but also with planned unit developments. So when you look at the process of what is needed to get these approvals, you have a pre-application submittal and an application that involves site plan review, and that is done internally. It's staff, city staff, and SKF, and maybe some other agencies when they're involved, and they review the proposal. They make comments. There's sometimes a lot of back and forth. Sometimes it's pretty clean. Sometimes it dies, and they get information they need about a project. They realize this is not feasible, and they go away. So we have a fairly long list of site plan review actions that we've taken and followed to conclusion, or some that just they go away for a couple of years and then they come back. If they want to go forward, especially with a tract map or a subdivision, there's an environmental assessment that's required. These days, we don't do that in-house. We contract that out, and that for us is the most efficient way to do it. There's sometimes some studies that need to be done, and the consultant has the capabilities to do that. So that's a pass through to the applicant. Then there's public hearings and commission or council approval. The planning commission will review track maps and the PUDs. And the council then will review and the planning commission's recommendation on those track maps and the PUD. After that point, there's an engineering review of the subdivision map. Some of that's fairly technical. They get into, the gradations of the site, infrastructure, and then that is eventually finalized, usually with the engineer for the developer and the city engineer. And then there's a final map recordation that's done by council. In addition, sometimes there's a development agreement. Often there's a development agreement. And with single-family residential projects, there's an annexation into the CFD, which was mentioned earlier tonight, but that is a council. So after the final map is recorded, then there's this that you will consider the development agreement and then the annexation into the CFD. There's building permits that then can be pulled and construction commences. There's inspections and then culminating in a certificate of occupancy for the project. 55 weeks is sort of a minimum time from start to finish, but that's just kind of a rough estimate. It really just depends on the project. For this project, there is a red star, and you can see that they are really at the very end of what has been a long project for them. We alluded earlier tonight about some annexation actions some allocation actions that they took. They've been annexed into the city for years. This was a site that was a former map that went for many years without any action. I don't know whether it's due to financing or, developer other interests they may have had, but it finally was sold to the current property owner, and he was very diligent in getting his proposal through our process. It basically mirrored the map that was approved before. So in many ways, we were able to shortcut a little bit of that time because a lot of the engineering for that site had already been done with a previous map. So the key benefits is that track maps are pretty cut and dried. I mean, if the requirements are met, there are also all restrictions as to response time and allowed changes. But basically, if they've met the requirements and the city's accepted them and the CEQA has been performed and accepted, then the map moves ahead. The PUDs is where the design and development standards can apply. Some of those can be flexible. Sometimes there's trade-offs with amenities, maybe for, slightly different configurations of lots. You can get some, more pocket parks or, something like that. That's really what PUDs can pertain to. So just briefly, let's talk about the current project. 44 lots on the site, the previously approved parcel. It was originally approved in 2005. And again, that was a long time ago now, and market factors impacted the development. There were some state legislation extensions that happened for every map during the economic downturn. So if you had an approved map, and you just weren't financially able to move forward, the state had extended often for two-year increments. And this happened at least twice that I recall. So at some point, though, there was no action on this site, and council rescinded the original allocations and the property was sold. So like I said, the current owner quickly followed all the requirements and reapplied. And the site plan review comments were received and accepted. And so just to put it in perspective, it is located west of 10th Avenue and south of CAM. It is west and north of existing developments. I think you're all fairly familiar with where it is. There is a map that's available in the packet also. The lots range from 7,000 square feet, which is a North Kingsburg specific plan requirement, to 12,800 square feet in size. There's a number of floor plans that are submitted. They are all single story. And the application includes alley loaded plans, some models that can be used for alley loaded plans, as we have encouraged that recently for our developers, especially in the North Kingsburg specific plan. It does include some green and open space. Here's the map, so you can kind of position it with CAM to the north. It's really on the northwestern edge of the city. So if the PUD is approved by council, the building permits will be issued after all plans are approved and go through plan check. Council will consider the final map then after that, and the development agreement will be worked out after all plans are approved. Just so you know, the initial study, which was in your packet, was available for public comment during the circulation period. This is another opportunity for the public to review in some detail projects that come before us. There's 4 weeks where it's out there and available on our website and other areas too for reviewing. The Planning Commission reviewed and recommended the approval of this at their November 13th, 2025 meeting. So let's just go quickly through the staff report. I wanted to just, we did talk about where it was located. Just a reminder that the tentative track map, really, this is informational only for you. There's no action at this time by council on the map. It's just reviewing what the Planning Commission's decision was. We do have an allocation packet that was I wanted to refer to on page 15, I think, Abby, of the separate document, just to see some of the renderings, some of the elevations of the houses. This is you could just scroll through a few of them, but this was submitted as part of his allocation package. So just to give you an idea of what kind of product he's intending to bring into the city. Again, the project will also be annexed into the Community Facilities District. That's a separate, they call it annexation. That's because the Community Facilities District has its own map, I guess you would say. So it's annexed into that CFD, but it's already been annexed. The land has already been annexed into the city. So if there's no annexation by LAFCO, that's required for this. I did mention the environmental review and the circulation period, and 2 comment letters were received, and they were both addressed in the response to comments that you have in your staff report. So at this time, the property owner is here, the developer is here to answer any questions to Mr. Crown. And you have two actions before you in the executive summary. So this concludes my staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you guys want to have a council discussion, or do you want to send it out to public? Can I go ahead and open it up for public comment? Any from the public that would like to come up?
Council member.
Okay.
I've been coming for this map for a few years now.
You can just, I know it's point of order, just name and whether or not.
Yeah, so it's many visits here. Just to recap, it's 44 single family, semi-custom home. Oh, yeah. Joseph Crown. 44 single family residences with high plate lines and like I said, a semi-custom with 3 different elevations. We're gonna have bunch of siding, stone facades. We have 2 plans that are alley loaded. Here for your blessing, I got my allocations and I did lose allocations. So I did go through this entire process again. So I can respect, that you have a regulated building. And that's what keeps the community. So I respect that. And coming and submitted all the paperwork and complied with the North Kingsburg specific plan. And I'm here for your blessing for the map. And hopefully we'll get the improvement plans approved with Mr. Peters and then in for final map early next year. I'm not here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Mr. Crum?
Quick question on the map. There's not a park in in the new development?
There's a small park, but there's also, I believe it's Victoria Park that's right around the corner there. But there's a small, Mr. Peter.
Yeah, there'll be a small green space developed on the south side of the green space.
Thank you.
A relatively small infill parcel. As you can see, it flows from the other subdivision and then out to Cam. So there'll be some connectivity there for the current homeowners.
Any other questions for Mr. Crum?
I have a question. So the one that is the existing subdivision that is on Cam isn't that gated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there's a wall, so there's no road that will go through.
All the fences on the, I guess that'd be the west side of that property are all collapsing. So we're building a new retaining wall and putting on new fence at no cost to the homeowners as well.
That's where everybody's dumping their pool.
Oh, yeah.
Dirt or.
Cost of $100,000 to clean it up. But
All
we're
that.
out there grading now and it's going well.
It looks a lot better.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to close public comment on this item and have continued council discussion.
Mr. Crown's been here, but many proposed allocations. We showed us a good product with nice homes. It's a good area. I like the alley loaded garages, getting us different look for Kingsburg. So I think it's a good product, for Kingsburg. Yeah, hopefully the homes are be affordable for young families.
Well, they won't be. Any other council discussion?
Nice.
If there's none else, are you guys comfortable with closing public hearing? Okay, we'll close public hearing. And possible actions before us. There's going to be 2. So we're going to start with possible action 1, which is adopt resolution 2025-066, approving the initial study, mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program for the single family residential project on EPN 394-021-24. We'll entertain motions for that.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution was passed. Next is the second resolution, which is adopt resolution 2025-067, affirming the planning commission approval of the PUD 2025-01 for the project, which involves single family residential uses and associated open space features. And we will entertain motions for that.
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Passes also. Thank you. And next we'll move to future agenda items, of which we have none listed. And we'll move to the city manager's report.
One item, just a reminder that the normal second meeting in December 17th has been canceled. And so our next regular meeting will be January 7th, 2026.
That's it. Thank you. Now we'll move to council reports and committee reports, starting with, start out with Councilmember North.
The only thing to report out from bid would be that they've partnered with the chamber, and on Saturdays from 10 to 2, they have Santa, and he is now going to be in the sleigh at Larson's. So photo opportunity 10 to 2, and then the trolley will be
When was that coming?
every Saturday, and so Saturday 10 to 2. And then that's it from bid. Chamber of Commerce, we will meet next Tuesday night, and Centerpoint we have not met.
Yes, the finance committee hasn't met. Our next meeting's going to be January 26th. And the same with the Community Services Commission. We have not met, and our next meeting is going to be January 28th.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan.
Thank you. Economic Development Committee, San Joaquin Air and the South Kings GSA have not met. Just one other side note, I did attend the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, which was very, very well attended. I know a lot of us were there. City staff was there, so it was great weather, a lot of caroling, a lot of good spirit, total Kingsburg experience. So just want to give staff credit and thank you. I know that police was out there to make sure everybody was staying safe, and we appreciate that as everyone walked down the street. So just a really nice event, and thank you to city staff. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Public Safety Committee, we have not met since our last meeting, which was last month. Planning Commission is scheduled to meet December 11th. See if that happens. SKF is also scheduled to meet in the afternoon of December 11th. The other thing I have is if anybody's in Bakersfield on Saturday, the 6th, we're going to be wrestling. The boys have their first tournament. Start in the morning, be done. Well, you guys know, hopefully I'll be back for the Christmas Santa Lucia parade, but that's coming up this Saturday. Not sure if I'll be back in time again this year, but if I am, I'll be on the trolley with y'all. If not, I'll be probably in the car driving back. A bunch of stinky wrestlers.
We'll see if we can hold the whole parade for you.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
For me, we did meet, COG did meet, Council of Governments did meet. Big thing with that was Measure C. They did adopt allocations and percentages that are going to be going forward. With the ballot measure, it has a few more steps before ballot. It was a split vote. Kingsburg was opposed to it, along with, I believe, Reedley, Selma, Osmo County, maybe Fowler and Sanger. So a lot of this general area. We didn't see the allocations the same way, but overall collectively it's moving forward. And so I'm interested to see what it looks like from here on out. It's going to continue to probably be a little bit contentious. That meeting was pretty long. I don't know, like 4 hours or something. But it is moving forward. And so we'll keep an eye on that. And, I'm really going to rely on council members to help inform the voters so that they can make the right decision for them. There's some things in it that are very good for Kingsburg, and there's some things in it that some may view as not good for Kingsburg. And I just want them to make an educated vote. Whatever they decide, I want them to know. So more of that will come out once they do some implementation guidelines. The only other thing that I have is I want to give kudos to our fire department, our public works, and SNS for getting our Christmas tree back up and working after our terribly tragic accident. It's a small town thing. Everybody came together and got it fixed in short order in time for the Christmas tree lighting and stuff. So Chief, thank you. Thank you to your crew. Pass that on, please. Public Works, if you can pass it on to them, please. So it's a small thing, but like we've talked about in Kingsburg, the small things really, really matter. So shout out to everybody for that. Does anybody have anything else for report outs? Okay, if not, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be adjourning into closed session for some employment stuff. City Attorney, do we have anything to report out?
No, Mr. Mayor, nothing to report out tonight.
Yeah, this meeting's adjourned.